you looking for a property to buy or lease? Are you tired of buying fake property from unregistered agents? Then this is good news for you. My Property and I is a real estate management program. Comes your way every Tuesday, 5:30 p.m. on African Independent Television, AIT. Contrary people, una dey hear me so? I say My Property and I go tanda for your television every Tuesday 5:30 p.m. to give una all the tori about property for our state and how to get better one. We go dey bring una people wey sabi property matter to teach us how to buy and sell property without mago. Join us this Tuesday 5:30 p.m. on AIT Benin. My Property and I. Me sef fit be landlord.
Good day, viewers. You're welcome to another exciting episode of My Property and I remain your host, Simon Jones. My name. Property has been issues the borders they have to claim. This is why we're going to do the firstly estate management program that gives you background knowledge on how to acquire genuine property, where to acquire genuine property, and possible to manage and develop those property of yours. We're going to be taking a short break right now. When we return, we're going to be meeting with our guest who is set to do justice to that issues that borders are attached to that property.
Are you looking for a property to buy or lease? Are you tired of buying fake property from unregistered agents? Then this is good news for you. My Property and I is a real estate management program. Comes your way every Tuesday 5:30 p.m. on African Independent Television, AIT. Contrary people, una dey hear me so? I say My Property and I go tanda for your television every Tuesday 5:30 p.m. to give una all the tori about property for our state and how to get better one. We go dey bring una people wey sabi property matter to teach us how to buy and sell property without mago. Join us this Tuesday 5:30 p.m. on AIT Benin. My Property and I. Me sef fit be landlord.
Thank you, sir, for joining us on today's episode of My Property and I.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir, can you introduce yourself and also tell us more about your business?
Well, my name is Francis Ewoma. I'm the Managing Director of Edogis. Edogis stands for Edo State Geographic Information Service. We are the successor agency to the former Ministry of Land and Survey. So anything land administration, land information, land valuation, land survey, this is the place to come.
So tell us more about Edogis.
So basically, we were set up 3 years ago. First of all, the state government started by doing an area survey of the state that allowed the state to capture all the land information. Now we have a visual map of the entire 17,800 square kilometers of Edo State. And then the next thing we had to do was to create a land information system whereby we were able to save as much as 30,000 legacy files that we inherited from the Ministry of Land and Survey. We were able to computerize, digitize, and save them digitally. And in the period under review, which is about 3 years, we've also issued well over 7,000 different titles, basically tied to a digital certificate of occupancy, which we believe will help to secure your property from encroachment.
Are you guys having this thought of, before anybody will acquire land, you let that person tell for maybe the owner of that land or the owner of the community should first of all have a kind of, you guys will have commitment with that community in terms of before anybody will acquire land in that area, the person must pass through CFO, must first of all come and do CFO.
Okay, the CFO is not necessarily compulsory. What is compulsory under the Edo State land law is to register your property. Now, what that means is you need to come forward and tell us this is your property. Support it with relevant documents, and then we'll put it in the Edo State Land Registry. Now, why did the government decide to go this way? Historically, Edo State is one of the hotspots for land tussles and land conflicts. And basically, what is the cause of all that is the fact that there has been very poor or limited access to land information. As a matter of fact, few people know the extent of their land. Few communities know the extent of their land. I'm sure you are aware that there have been several community fights over this is my land, that is not your land, and so on and so forth. So one of the steps government took to try and bring these land conflicts to a halt was to ensure that we digitize the process of land administration. We are not capable of clearly demarcating each community's land from the other. All we therefore ask is that the communities come forward, come to Edogis, and we will digitize the extent of your land for you. This service is free for communities. It is not free for individuals, but any community that wants their land digitized, we will do so free of charge. Now, secondly, when you purchase a land, and this is the root cause of why you have multiple sales, you have no way of knowing whether that particular piece of land has been sold before or not. Now, this is where Edogis comes in. When you purchase a piece of land and you come to Edogis to register your land, any other person wanting to register that land, it will be impossible because we tell them, sorry, Mr. A or Mr. B has already registered this piece of land. Conversely, before you purchase land, the smart thing to do is to do due diligence. That is, find out if the land is really available for sale. And one of your first port of call should be Edogis to find out if somebody has already registered that land. So we believe that by the time we continue with this process, over the course of time, we will bring to a total end the issues of people and their communities having conflicts over ownership of land. Because it becomes impossible to sell a land twice or thrice, as the case may be.
As the response of persons coming to in terms of registering their land, or they don't have this awareness about.
Well, it's encouraging. More and more people are beginning to see the benefit of registering their land, and we are beginning to handle more and more such cases and helping people to sort out ownership tussles and so on and so forth. Bear in mind, though, that it is compulsory now in Edo State for you to come and register your land, because the government wants to have a register of all the land, like I said, so that government can put a stop to land grabbing. You will recall that recently government signed a law, they signed a law into place prohibiting land encroachment, land grabbing, and so on and so forth. Now, one of the easiest ways to prove that you own land is to show that you have registered the land with government. And when you register your land with government, government issues you a certificate of occupancy, which protects you against encroachers and land grabbers. And the good thing about this is that when you have a certificate of occupancy, it cannot be duplicated. That same piece of land cannot have another certificate of occupancy under Edogis. And that piece of land, anybody else who wants to purchase or deal or mortgage or do anything at all with that land will have to have your express permission in writing for us to agree for the person to do. So it's an additional form of security for your land. It's also evidence that you are in possession of your land. And if you ask your lawyers, they will tell you that possession of land is 50%. So registering it all helps into securing your land for you. Now, more and more people are beginning to realize this, and particularly those in diaspora who are very enlightened. They are all coming in to register their lands, and even those who are here are coming to register their land. Let me give you, recently there was a lot of noise in the social media about a teacher whose land was taken from her by some community leader or the other, and then there was a lot of noise. The House of Assembly had to come in and so on and so forth. Now, going forward, the teacher, I'm happy to announce, came here now to get her land registered. But if she had registered her land initially, there was no question of anybody taking it from her, because she will have documentary evidence. Now, some people might say, oh, but the community has given me paper and said that the land is my own. But you forget that it's the same community that gave you paper that will give another person paper. So it becomes a problem of which of the papers from the same community is real. Because on a personal note, I have experienced a place where the community executive came to me and said, oh, the paper you got was given to you by the previous executive. Now that we are the new people, you have to come and do another paper. So these are the limitations of relying just on getting a paper from community. Paper from community is a root title. It's valid, right? But the problem is, unfortunately, there are some unscrupulous characters in our communities who will issue that same paper to multiple people. Now, this is where Edogis comes in. Once you get that paper from your community, you come here and register it. We verify your papers, you register it, we put a CFO over the land. If they issue community paper to another person, that paper will remain invalid. Because when the person comes here, we say, sorry, Mr. A, B, or C has already registered this your land. You cannot come and register that same land again. Please contact the owner of the land for the... And if you have any conflict, then you may decide to go to court and so on and so forth. But the important thing is, once you have a CFO on your piece of land, what we do is tie the hands of the community from being able to resell your land to another person.
But this don't make, this actually don't make me as if maybe the first person to register the land is the owner of the land. What is the owner of the land?
Well, by law, the first person to register is the person we stand by. There's a principle, well, a lawyer probably should be the one telling you this. But first in time remains first in time. It is when, once we are convinced, or let me put it this way, once we have no reasonable doubt as to the authenticity of your document, we will go ahead to register you. Now, if somebody else is claiming a superior title, that person has to prove it in the court of law. Edogis cannot take back the CFO it has issued to you. Once we have issued it, we are done. Only a court of law or Mr. Governor can revoke that certificate. We cannot as an agency. So that's why it's very critical that you come and register your land very quickly. Because we do not know if there are, and you yourself don't know if there are multiple sales on that land. Unfortunately, people are unscrupulous when it comes to land deals. So you protect yourself by registering your land with an agency who will not do double registration. We are precluded by law, that is, we are prevented by law from offering CFO on a property that is already registered with us. By law, we can't do it. So that is why when you come and register with us, you are protected by that same law. And that is why you have to, I would advise anybody that, look, if all you have, some people think, for instance, oh, I have surveyed it. Survey is not a title. Survey is just a description of the land. It doesn't show that you own the land. Now, but if you add your survey together with the root title, which perhaps either could be your community papers, or a deed of transfer, or a deed of sale, or a deed of gift, or a deed of inheritance, that makes up your title. Now, all those titles put together with your personal information, so that somebody else cannot steal those titles and claim to be the thing, is what we register and put in a CFO for you. For instance, if you have a deed of inheritance from your father bearing a name, right, and you have a survey bearing a name, you know very well that there are no photographs in a deed of inheritance and there are no photographs in a survey. Anybody, your cousin or your brother, can take those papers. But for a CFO, first of all, you have to prove to us that the name on those titles are your own name. For that, we require a government-issued ID card. So we are now able to relate the name on the title with a person, right? Mm-hmm. You have to show us your address. Mm-hmm. And we insist that you prove that that address is real. So we have details on the owner of the property. And we put all those details in the certificate of occupancy. Such that even if your brother tries to sell your land, whoever is buying that land will see the CO and say, okay, the picture on this certificate is not you. So these are all extra steps we have taken using technology. And all this information that we are talking about is digitized. And it is saved in our servers, both on-site and off-site in the cloud. So even if anything happens to this building, the information is safe. We'll just simply reconstruct. Then in those days, you used to have a case of, I went to the Ministry of Land, they say they can't find my file. Today, there is no new file of Edogis that can go missing. If there are files that are missing, perhaps they were files from the old Ministry of Lands, which we have not been able to digitize. But today, as we create files, we digitize them. So even if the physical file goes missing, as in maybe somebody is hiding it, or it was stolen, or it is burnt, or whatever, at least this is a country where snakes swallow money. So maybe a rat ate the file. We can reconstruct it from our digital copies. So you can see that registering your property with Edogis offers multiple layers of security and protection. And for anybody to dispute a CFO issued by Edogis, they have to go to a high court. They have to go to a high court. The managing director of Edogis cannot help you. And if the managing director cannot help you, that means there's nobody that can help you. Once a CFO has been issued and you have that CFO, nobody else can revoke it, apart from the law allows for only two entities. The first entity is Mr. Governor, who can say, okay, I want this property for public use. The second entity is a competent court of jurisdiction, who can say, I have reviewed this case, this is my decision. Any other person cannot obtain a certificate of occupancy. But an Ojonwori can obtain the community paper that the previous Ojonwori created. In fact, some Ojonworis can obtain the paper that they themselves gave. So it is not smart not to register your property. Your property is a very, very important investment. For most people, that is the investment they want to use in their old age. It does not make sense in today's Nigeria not to register your property.
That means the CFO is like a security to land.
It is a security. That is it. The CFO is the one that is standing guard over your land. Because whether you are there or not, the CFO doesn't change.
So the CFO does not create a gun, does not need anything to protect your land.
Absolutely.
You just need the digital intake to just.
That's it.
Wow.
Anytime you want a copy of your old CFO, if for instance we give you a CFO and you lose it, and say, either it was stolen or a rat ate it or something, I can't find my CFO. You just write to Edogis, please give me a certified true copy of my CFO. This is my name. No, obviously you have to pay for that. But what it means is that you always have a CFO, a title to present. So let me ask you a question. If you buy land from, say, a Yekogba, a Bo community, and the community paper gets missing, can you go back to the community? Maybe you spend 5 years abroad. Can you go back to that community and tell them to issue you another one?
I don't think so. Even if you even go back, the day you go back, the next day someone will go and say for another person.
Yeah, but in Edogis, even if it's 10 years, your records are here. 20 years, your records are here. We have records of ownership from the colonial era. So, all I can say is that there is no logic, no sense in investing so much money in landed property and not securing it by registering it with the government. Because it is when you register with government that government can come up and stand. Oh, by the way, if there's a dispute, the Edogis or the relevant officer in charge will stand by you in court to say, yes, we issue this CFO to this man based on this document. And we come up with the copies of the document we used and issue the CFO. So the only way government can stand by you in securing your property is if you register it with us. Because if you don't register it with us, we don't know who owns it.
Do you guys have any other portions here where you do outside the CFO, or whether there are other mini functions which you do here in this building?
Yeah, well, yes. Edogis has about 5 departments. We have the geometric department where we have survey, GIS functions. We have valuation department where we can assist you with valuing your land. And if, for instance, government even wants to acquire your land, you are entitled to compensation. It's your right by law to compensation. We can help you to value so that you get the right amount of value for your property. We have our customer service department. Edogis is the only department in government that I know of that has a customer service department, in that we see everybody that comes into Edogis as our customers. And so we give you the same level of quality of service as you will get if you are in a private company. For instance, you go to a bank or something, the same kind of quality of service. In fact, we want to boast that we offer better service than some banks without measuring names. So, and that's because it's a focus of our own. It's a department, and it's one of our pillars of operation. And then of course we have our legal unit. Every document that you present to us, we have a team of lawyers that look into it. We don't offer legal services. If you want legal services, you need to approach a lawyer. But we have lawyers who go through our documents to make sure that we remain on the correct side of the law when we are operating. And I already mentioned survey. Even though we don't necessarily offer survey services to the public, we don't do that. We only offer survey services to government and government departments. But we insist that every survey, and let me advise, every survey you get, please ensure that you are getting it from a registered surveyor. If you want a list of the registered surveyors licensed to practice in Edo State or in Nigeria, you can approach the NIS, Nigerian Institute of Surveyors. They have the full list. Ensure, because if your survey comes and we find that it is not done by a registered surveyor, we cannot accept that survey for registration because the information on it is suspect. You understand? Yeah. If you just go and get one funny person somewhere to draft something for you and you say, we will have cause to be suspicious that's about the veracity and accuracy of the information. So first thing we look for is to ensure that the surveyor that you are using is a registered surveyor, and we have ways of checking that. Also, let me advise that when you draw up your agreement and your deeds, you also employ the services of a lawyer so that you are sure you don't run afoul of the law, even though that's not compulsory. But it's an advice that, look, when you are investing in something as important as landed property, you need to cross the T's and dot the I's. And finally, bring all those documents to Edogis so that government registration and seal can serve as protection over the documents.
And what's your take on the vaccination?
COVID is real, and I'm saying COVID is real not because other people are saying it. We had an outbreak in Edogis a few weeks ago, and some of our staff were hospitalized for weeks. So for us, and because we insist on the safety of our staff and the safety of the customers who come here, we insist that you observe all COVID protocols when you're in our premises. face masks, social distancing, and vaccination.
The way you lay your bed, that's how you definitely going to lie on it. Having an assurance of generosity gives you peace of mind. This is why we all need to follow us every Tuesday by 5:30 p.m. on AITV News and on Saturday by 1 p.m. You can also join us on our social media platform. See you next week, same time, same station. Bye for now.
My property and I. Me self fit be landlord.